you ready?
My name is JJ.
My name is JM.
My name is Jack. My name is Jay.
And my name is Jamie.
And welcome to It's Time Financial House.
So, are you ready?
Invest in the stock market so that you'll become rich.
I know it's unconventional, it's not traditional, but it works. Plan, build, secure.
I'm JJ.
I'm JM.
I'm Jack. I'm Jake.
And I'm Jamie.
And welcome to It's Time Wow!
Wisdom on Wednesdays.
Your weekly dose of wisdom.
So every Wednesday, we will invite wisdom-filled individuals that will share with us their expertise, competence, and experience that will help us gain more success, knowledge, and wisdom.
And we'll have these episodes ready and available on our YouTube channel for your future reference.
So get your fill of wisdom every Wednesday.
It's time!
There's a secret to success. Everybody hopes to find. There's a key to the world, and it's mine, all mine. There's a world of opportunity filled with possibility and dreams that I'm gonna find. I got a millionaire mind. I say yes to success. I got a millionaire mind. I say yes to success. I've got a blueprint for the future, brand new design. I'm playing at the money game, winning all the time. There's a world of opportunity filled with possibility and dreams that I'm going to find. I got a millionaire mind. I say yes, oh, I say yes to success.
Let's begin with a prayer. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, thank you for another wonderful season of Wisdom on Wednesdays. We pray that you're just going to continue to guide us and bless us, that we will be able to open our minds to learn more, not for ourselves, but to help other people as well, O Lord. Please let us learn more things. Please let us internalize this knowledge so that we'll become better people and help many people along our journey in life. All of this we pray through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm JJ.
I'm JM.
I'm Jack. I'm Jake.
And I'm Jamie.
And welcome to It's Time Wow!
Wisdom on Wednesdays.
Your weekly dose of wisdom.
This month, our guest speaker will share with us his program, Your Great Entrepreneurial Adventure, why your mindset matters most, and how to harness your superpowers. He will be showing us what our journey and adventure will look like. He will tell us about the fuel for the journey, the roadmap to your success, aligning your driving forces, your Achilles army, shields and swords, and the end of the beginning, and to get us to our destination.
Our guest speaker lives his mission to inspire people and make a difference to humanity. Based in the Perth Hills of Western Australia, he is an entrepreneur, coach, presenter, and author who has created and grown many businesses, given customers and staff great experiences, and inspired many people to improve their lives. The youngest sibling of hardworking English parents, his childhood involved learning the family hotel business in the English Channel Island of Jersey. Leaving college at 18, he became a retail trainee. By 19, he was already a deputy store manager. And since aviation was another family passion, he gained a pilot's license. After winning a UK Business Award, he and his first wife relocated to Perth to achieve their dream of owning their own family home. He enjoyed a successful retail career with various big chains, but wanted to control his own destiny. After dabbling with sales, his first venture was a backpacker's accommodation in 1996, leading to many other enterprises, generating millions of dollars that encompass tourism and hospitality, vehicle sales, hire and servicing, property management, and cleaning and office relocations. After a lifetime commitment to personal development, he became a successful business and life coach who has mentored hundreds of people to help them live happier, more fulfilling lives. He and his wife Jo are carers for her disabled son, but with strategic mobile business systems, have also been international travel adventurers until the pandemic put it on hold. He also published If Life's Worth Doing, It's Worth Doing Well.
Let's learn. Please welcome Coach Tony.
Okay, once again, guys, welcome to our new series of It's Time, Wisdom on Wednesdays. We have our guest mentor and coach from Australia, this time who will talk about entrepreneurship. Coach Tony, hi, how are you? Other than what JJ had mentioned during the introduction, would you like to say something about yourself, what you do, where you're from?
Yeah, sure. Depends how long you want me to talk for. I could talk all day. I'm originally from a small island called Jersey in the English Channel Islands, and I emigrated out to Australia back in 1985, December 85. So I've been living here in Perth, Western Australia ever since, traded a very small island for a very big one. And I've had quite an entrepreneurial adventure during that time. I was started out as a retail manager and actually got one of the big retail chains here to sponsor me into the country. But then started out on my own in business in '96, and haven't looked back since. So, but yeah, I've done quite a lot of different things. It's been quite a varied story, and not your usual small business story, I think.
I know, I've heard about it, and I'm really excited to share your story with our audience. By the way, guys, I met Mr. Tony here from Think and Grow Rich Mastermind. We belong together in that group, together with Coach Russ Devan and also Coach Rini Ledgerwood. And he has some exciting stories to share with us, and that's the reason why I invited him over to teach us some of his expertise and experience and wisdom to share with our audience. Our topic or series would be Your Great Entrepreneurial Adventure, Why Your Mindset Matters Most, and how to harness your superpowers. And for the very first episode, the title would be Your Adventure, the Greatest Story Ever Told. So are you ready, Coach Tony, to share with us the very
Oh, I'm
first
excited. I'm
All
excited
right.
to be here with you today. It's great.
What do you mean by your adventure and your story?
Well, the reason I've called it Your Adventure is because for me, it has felt like very much an entrepreneurial adventure. You know, Richard Branson says that life or business and life are all one thing, really, that, you know, we're meant to have fun. We're here to have fun, and business shouldn't be an ordeal. It shouldn't be something you have to go and do and struggle your way through. And we do look at it as a bit of a struggle sometimes when especially getting started. But, you know, it's important to have fun in all areas of your life. We only have a short time on this planet, as far as I know, most of us. So we might as well have fun while we're here. So for me, it's about how you maintain the balance, you know, how you can work hard, but you need to play hard as well. You know, I think it's important that we have work and life balance, very much so. And we only get so many years of good health as well. You know, you have to do what you can while you can, because one day you won't be able to. So make the most of life is my main message. That's the theme that I've followed all the way through. And sure, you'll have some setbacks along the way, but you know, it's all in how you look at things. It's a great deal to do with your mindset and your perspective. And I think that's one of the biggest things that the business schools don't probably teach enough. You know, you can teach people about profit and losses and balance sheets and KPIs, but it's more important. The thing that really makes or breaks the business is you as the main asset, you know, whether you have the right tenacity, the right mindset. And I've got a little story for you, actually, to get things started. I think this is an interesting one that relates from my personal life, but is, you know, there's always business lessons in things as well. The story I've got for you is about a World War II ship. It was a cruise liner, a luxury cruise liner called the President Coolidge. So an American ship that was set up, you know, had first class facilities, had a luxury swimming pool out the back, a very opulent dining area and lounge room. And around the early 1940s, it was converted for the war effort. It was converted to be a troop carrier. So in 1942, in October, it was on its way out to the South Pacific region because it was taking 5,000 troops on board and medical supplies, particularly for quinine, which was combating malaria that a lot of the troops were getting out here, fighting between the Americans and the Japanese in that sort of theater, which would be very familiar to the people of the Philippines, of course. You know this area well, and the whole story of this, I suppose. But the Coolidge was on its way, this massive ship, and it was heading towards Vanuatu, towards the Luganville Harbour. And they had a skipper who was not a military commander. He was a civilian. So they hadn't entrusted him with where the minefields were. So he was heading into this harbour with this massive ship. And he got a bit panicky. There was supposed to be another ship coming out to meet him, to guide him into the harbour. But there'd been reports of Japanese submarines in the area. And so he panicked and decided he needed to get the ship out of danger and quickly get it into the harbour. So he went charging in without waiting for the other ship. Now, from the shore, they tried to signal to him to stop, but before they could turn the ship around, they hit a mine. And it put a big hole in the engine room in the side of the ship. And with that first explosion, it killed one crew member in the engine room. He realized that he'd been hit, and he realized that he had a problem. And before he could do anything to turn it around, they hit a second mine. So he knew the ship was going to go down. So he quickly steered it towards the coral reef, and he managed to sort of wedge it onto the coral reef, which meant that it bought them some time before the ship would start to sink. Now, they thought it's going to take at least a day for it to sink. We're pretty solidly wedged on this reef. So they started to get all the troops off the ship. They had ladders over the side of the ship, and they were scaling everybody off the side of the ship. They managed to get, so they lost 2 people, one in the original mine explosion and one who was trying to get people off the ship and was the last one off. He was trying to get people out of the sick bay. So out of 5,000 troops, they only lost 2, got everyone off, and they thought, right, we'll go back tomorrow and get all the jeeps and trucks and medical supplies and everything off the ship tomorrow. But what they didn't anticipate was that it started to fill up with water very quickly, and the ship slid back down. And in about an hour and a half, it just slid back down the reef and went on its side and sank. So that was in October 1942. So that's the story of the Coolidge. It's now a very famous scuba diving site as a shipwreck. And so a few years ago, I think, what year was it now? 2010, I think, or thereabouts. 2010. Joe, my partner, and I were over there on holiday, and we were scuba diving the shipwreck. Now, the front end of it is at 17 meters, which for those who don't dive and don't know, if you learn to be a normal open water diver, scuba diver, you'd go down to 18 meters would be your limit. If you want to be an advanced diver, they would train you to go down to 30. So the start of the ship is at 17 meters. So that's just within the limits of the basic scuba diver. If you want to go deeper, you can actually go inside the ship. You need to be an advanced diver for that. So we were both advanced. In fact, we're rescue divers as well. But they trained us on this so we could go deeper and deeper. And we had extra air bottles, and we had air bottles on a line as well that we could go back for. So we went right down to the bottom end of the ship, which is at 60 meters. That's really deep. It's a long way down. It's very dark and very slow down there. Everything you do is very slow, and you don't just do that, you prepare for that. So we've done a lot of scuba diving training. Anyway, we're down at 55 meters below the surface, which is really deep. And the ship's on its side, which is very disorientating, right? So there's a swimming pool on the back deck, what was a swimming pool, and it's on its side now. So we did a vertical lap of the pool, right? And then just our guide, who wanted to show us that it was a swimming pool, he swished away all the silt buildup on the side of the pool. And you could see the little ceramic tiles. So you could see, oh, that's the edge of the swimming pool, right? And so we're looking at this. We're at 55 meters down, and we turn to go away towards the back end of the ship. And then we're going to follow the ship back up and gradually begin our ascent back to the surface. And we have to do a long safety stop because it's you're a long way down. When you're that far down, you can't just go straight to the surface. If you did, you'd get the condition called the bends, you might have heard of. It's when you get nitrogen bubbles in your bloodstream, and your body needs time to dissipate that nitrogen. So you do a slow, long ascent, right? So anyway, why I'm telling you this story? Because you're wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. Breathing through a tube is not really a normal thing to do. And when you're breathing from a tank, it's a sort of a dry air as well. So I got that bit of raspiness in my throat, and I just wanted to cough. So I started sort of coughing a little bit. But when you're 55 meters down, you're very dependent on your breathing just being very slow and steady and calm. I'm suddenly starting to cough, and I just wanted to pull that reg out of my mouth and have a proper cough. You can't do that when you're that far down underwater. So I literally am holding on to my reg to keep it in my mouth so I don't cough it out. And of course, the more I started thinking about my breathing, the more I started getting a little bit concerned about it. Now, when you're that far down, I should just explain, there's a condition you can get. So you can get narcosis, right? So it's called nitrogen narcosis. So what that does is, because of the nitrogen buildup in your bloodstream, it tends to affect people one of two ways. It slows you down mentally. You can't think as fast as you can when you're up near the surface. And they show you that when you're learning to dive by getting you to do little mathematics puzzles or little things that you'd be able to do easily on the surface. And then you find you're having to think your brain's not working quite the same down there. So everything's a bit slower. So what happens is people either go really euphoric and excited, like they've had a few drinks and they're, yay, everything's fun, let's go chase the dolphins, that kind of thing. Or they start to get paranoid. So they, start getting very anxious and concerned. So I had a little bit of this paranoia, but I felt like I had, you might have seen in the movies where you get an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other.
Yeah.
So the devil is sort of going to me, what are you doing down here? You shouldn't be down here. You don't belong down here. This is a bad place for you to be. It's you just, this is, you're in real trouble here. You shouldn't be here. And the angel on the other shoulder is going, don't listen to him. Got it all under control. It's all fine. You're an experienced diver. You know what you're doing. You'll get through this. And I'm coughing, and my partner she's seeing the extra bubbles coming out. Like she's suddenly got concerned, and she's thinking, this isn't good. If he starts panicking this deep down, we're in trouble. It's going to be a challenge. Anyway, just at that moment, as I've got this battle going on between these two characters on my shoulders, I see this little brightly colored sea slug on the side of the ship. It's called a little nudibranch. And I had the bright idea, I'll take a photograph of it. So I pull my camera out, focus on that, take a photograph of it, And in doing that, I took my mind off my breathing. You know, you don't think about your breathing normally, do you? You just breathe.
Yes.
Body just takes care of that for you on
Right.
autopilot, right?
Right.
But when you start thinking about it, and especially under pressure like that, you start to kind of hyperventilate a little bit. You know, you can't get your breath properly. And when you're that far down, that's a really important thing. So this little sea slug here that I took a photo of, as I focused on that, I wasn't thinking about my breathing, and my breathing took care of itself, and I calmed down again, and I'm breathing normally again. I was like, whew, that's okay. That's good. So then I could carry on with the rest of the dive and finish and go smoothly up to the surface. So the thing, the lesson I drew out of that is, you know, you get a lot of those situations in business where you think you get the seeds of doubt creep in, you know, and you think, am I doing the right thing here? Am I on track? Do I really know what I'm doing? And you start to get that doubt. And especially if you might have well-meaning, very often family or friends that we say, what are you doing? Because they're trying to protect you. They don't want you to fail or, you know, get into trouble. But they haven't got maybe the same vision that you've got, the same courage and the belief in what you're doing. So they can inadvertently sometimes, you know, do you harm, like not meaning to, but they can sort of put you off, knock your confidence a little bit maybe. So the other thing about what I learned about that with that dive was that, you know, all your adventures, they're going to test you. You're going to get moments where you're going to have setbacks and you're going to have challenges. Now, how you deal with those is a lot to do with your state of mind, but it's also about being prepared, you know, because success occurs when preparedness and opportunity meet. So you've got the opportunity to be doing something extraordinary. And if you're prepared mentally and in terms of finances and, you know, have contingency plans and things like that, if you have a good solid plan and a good vision of where you're going, then you can ride out those setbacks and those challenges. So, yeah, I look very much at, for me, business has been an adventure all the way through. There's been some triumphs, there's been some setbacks. And then it's important to reflect on them and learn from both and then apply those lessons going forwards. So that's what I mean by adventure. So I thought the little story kind of helped illustrate that point. The other thing about when you're diving, they teach you, if you're ever in a crisis situation, this is what they teach you: stop, think, and act. Now, very easily, sometimes we go to a knee-jerk reaction. You know, we react to a situation, and we, in business especially, you know, what's the competition doing, or what's happening with this staff member, or what's the customer done? And sometimes we have a little more time. You know, when I was a young trainee manager, one of my bosses taught me a valuable lesson. And he said, if you have to make a decision in business, if it's easily reversible, then make the decision quickly. But if it's not easily reversible, then take as much time as you can get to weigh up all the information and the facts and make sure you make the right decision. So I thought that was a good lesson.
Yeah, I think the stop, think, and act, it's not even just for business, it's for everything in life, right?
It is.
Yeah, everything that needs like our decision, very important decisions in our life, we really need to just stop, think, and before we act. And yeah, I like the idea that you said, if it's easily reversible, then make a decision quickly. But if not, then we really have to spend some time to think it over before we do something. Can you explain this fuel for the journey for our viewers?
Sure. Yeah, so the fuel for the journey is that if we're going on an adventure, then, which business is an adventure, life's an adventure, then the more prepared we are in terms of how we think things through, having a plan is going to help us. You know that old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'm sure you've heard that lots of times. So having a plan of where you're going, like say you were going on a road trip, you would make sure that you had enough fuel for the journey, like literally in your car, or, you know, you'd know where the next service station was going to be. So it's the same with business. You know, you want to have a vision or a plan, particularly knowing why you're doing what you're doing. That's the starting point to it all. You know, in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about having a desire, a burning desire. I think that's the thing. That is the fuel that really carries you through when things get tough. I think a lot of people, particularly the experience I've had as a business coach with small business owners, a lot of them go into business because they kind of fall into it. They didn't like their boss and they thought, well, I don't need to listen to this idiot. I can do the job myself. I can be the boss, And it's one thing to be good at something, like say, for instance, you're a tradie. And if you're good at that trade, like you might be a good plumber or a good electrician, that doesn't mean you necessarily know how to run a business. There's a whole bunch of different hats you've got to wear when you're running a business. And that adventure is challenging. The vision is what will keep you going. And it's that dream of what's the real reason why you're in business? What's running that business going to do for you and for your family? And a lot of people, because they don't necessarily have a good plan, I mean, most people don't even know how to write a business plan to start off with. Especially my experience with having worked with a lot of people in trades, is that they just really think, I can make more money if I go into business for myself. I can be more in control of my destiny, is one that you hear quite a lot. And then they realize that actually you've also got to deal with banks and insurance companies and the customers and the suppliers and staff. If you take on staff as well, that's a whole other ball game completely. So you need to have a lot of managerial skills and you need to be able to wear a lot of different hats in business. And what will carry you through those tough times is to have a very clear vision of what it is that you want to achieve. And I don't mean just I didn't like the boss, so I'll be the boss and I'll be better. It's more than that. It's knowing what you're going to do with the business and ideally have some kind of an end game in mind. Is this a business you're going to build up and sell one day? Have you got an exit strategy? Because when I went into business, I didn't really have that. I was just on an adventure. I was having fun. My first business I started was with a backpackers hostel. And it was just such a change of direction from being a retail manager that, I was determined to just have fun running my own business. And I did. But then I didn't really ever have a clear exit strategy. I just saw this thing kind of going on indefinitely, and until eventually circumstances like external forces made life difficult for me when the global financial crisis came in. And if you look at what's just happened now with the global pandemic, there's been a lot of tourism businesses that have gone under because they didn't have a plan B, like with restaurants, a lot of them, they couldn't have customers in their restaurants. So they went to takeaway instead, and some of them have actually done better with takeaway and have been booming. So it's about constantly looking for ways of reinventing yourself and, coming up with new ideas. And I have a theory in business that if you're not moving forwards, you're not just staying still, you're actually slipping backwards, because your customer, your competition, there'll be new competition coming in and your competition will be coming up with new ideas. So if you just keep thinking, oh, we've always been successful doing things this way, we'll just keep doing it that way, you might be in for a shock one day. And there's plenty of examples around in recent business history of that, people like Kodak or IBM, where the managing director famously said that no one would ever want a personal computer. I think he got that one slightly wrong, didn't he? You look at different industries and they're all evolving all the time. Everything's changing so fast. When I was a kid, we had a black and white TV set, and you used to have to lift your backside off the couch and walk over to the TV and actually change channel or turn the volume up and down. And then when my mother was a young girl, they had wireless radio, so it's evolved so fast. And it's like, I used to be a big Star Trek fan when I was a kid. And, back when Captain Kirk and Spock were in Star Trek, and he used to have this thing he'd hold up and it was a communicator, and he'd talk to the guys on the spaceship, And we've got that handheld communicator, and not only that, it's really a walking encyclopedia as well. It's, you know, in Star Trek they were able to turn and talk to the computer and say, you know, give us a course for so and so for this next planet. Now we've got one of those in our lounge room. You know, we can go, Alexa, play this song. You know,
Right.
or who was the name of that actor in that movie last week? You know, we've got this mountain of information available to us at our fingertips. Things are evolving so fast in business. That's why it's a journey, it's an adventure, and you've got to keep freshening it up.
How do you know if it's the right fuel?
Well, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing there that holds the whole thing together is your values. So if you, and this is a question, you know, as a coach, I ask people very often, small business, so what are your values? And they go, what do you mean? You know, because most people have never even been asked that question or never given it any thought. So what is it in your life that's most important to you? You know, and if your value is really, say, family time, how are you going to reconcile that with maybe having to work lots of extra hours in the business? I know you're a great example of it, because you've got your kids involved in working in there with you and helping and
Right.
loving the journey. Like, they look so excited about it. Kudos to you, because you've done a great job. They're obviously clearly enjoying what they're doing too. But you know, you've got to work out, what's the price going to be? If I'm going to go into this business, what is it going to take? And am I willing to pay that price? You know, am I willing to put in, like, maybe work weekends, or maybe have to work some evenings, or, you know, because the bookkeeping has to be done as well. And, you know, if you've got products, very often you've got to go shopping to buy the products, or you've got to spend time researching where you're going to get the products from, or, you know, you've got to spend time on your marketing. There's so many other things that you have to do that you probably don't have to do when it's just a job. But when it's your business, you know, they say the buck stops with you. So I say, go back to your values. Be clear about what your real reasons are, what's important to you in your life, and how can you design your life the way you want it to be, and be in control of the business rather than the business being in control of you. You know, it's like the dog wagging the tail instead of the tail wagging the dog. So many people get taken over by their business and consumed by it, and then they don't have the reserves of, you know, energy or fortitude to get through. I mean, sometimes you do have to sacrifice short term to set it up, and then you can ease off strategically as you go through, you know, maybe hire some staff then. But you see so many small business owners, they go in and think, right, I'm the boss now, I've got to get myself the new car to look the part, and, you know, and they go out and spend all this money they don't have to
Right.
keep up with the image that they think the boss should have, you know, before they can actually afford it, before they've planned it.
True.
So how do you make your story a successful one? Is you've got to know what success is first for you to have that story. I watched this recording, or heard this recording years ago, and it was Earl Nightingale and The Strangest Secret. I guess you probably heard it, yeah. And I just love the fact that in that he talks about success is whatever it means to you. It's unique to you, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. You know, if in his story he said if the lady's a lollipop lady and she's helping the kids cross the road safely, and that's what she wants to do in life, and it makes her happy, then she's a success. You know, not everyone wants to be Richard Branson. Not everyone wants to be the big business owner. And sometimes we have to kind of define how much is enough, or what is the price we're going to have to pay to get that result, and are we willing to pay it? And a lot of people go into small business thinking it's all going to be fun and easy, and they get a bit of a shock, you know, when they realize that they're the one who has to sort out the problems, and they're the one who has to get through the tough times. Knowing what success means to you and knowing what your values are, really important things, and having that vision of where you want to go and why you're doing it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because we have different perspective on what success is. Just like with me personally, my mom, actually, I'm an only child, and my mom is a very, very independent woman, very strong-willed person. And for her, success is having cash in the bank, is having house, car, the stuff that usually our parents really would want us to have. But with me, it's totally different, exactly opposite of what she wants. I didn't care about having too much cash in the bank. I would want this perception of me having investments for my children. Like, they don't need cash right now, but they need investments in the future. And I want a good family, a complete family, always being together. So that's my idea of success. And for me, I'm very, very successful. I'm wealthy, but in her mind, it's not the same success. And I think for everyone, not just Filipino culture, but for every culture, our parents have a different meaning of success for us, different life that they would want for us. But in your case, personally, if that's what you want, then just go for it. So I think, in addition to what you said, if you would want to venture into a business, like what I have read from Robert Kiyosaki, he said you need to have three things: time, money, and skill. If you don't have the time, it's okay for you to hire people to do that for you. If you don't have the money, you can always ask for loan, but you must have at least the skill for the business that you would want, because it correlates to your values, right? That's what you would bring into your business. Because if it's your business and you're passionate about it, you really want it, it's personal to you, you must have the skill to run it. I think, in addition to what you said, that you would have to have your values, you need to have your business plan, you need to have your end goal in mind. These are the most important things that they would have to consider when they enter into a business. And right, how do you stay on track? Like, in your case, you have had too many failures and you've had a lot of businesses that, of course, you ventured into. Not all of them were successful, but how do you stay on track? Why is it that you're still in business? Why didn't you ever give up?
Well, determination for one thing, and I suppose it's always been my dream to be my own boss as well. I think because my parents were in business for themselves, and I saw them. I learned a lot of their values. They always worked hard. They worked harder than the staff that they employed. I remember they had a hotel, and the chef would clean the kitchen, and they'd go in and clean it after him. Because they wanted it extra clean. So I think that work ethic was always there, right from observing. I think you learn the most from observing. It's like that old thing of don't do what I say, do what I do. Your children are influenced by your actions, by your example. And as a business owner, if you're going to be the leader, if you're going to employ people, you need to lead by example. You need to show them that there's nothing you're asking people to do that you wouldn't be willing to do yourself. That's always been one of my philosophies. Doesn't mean you have to do it yourself. In fact, you probably shouldn't do it yourself. You should delegate it to them, because you can do more important things that only you can do, that they might not be able to do. But it shows them that, when I had the backpackers, I would go and clean a toilet if I needed to, or I would do any of the unpleasant things that I would be willing, if I was going to ask a staff member to do it. I've already done it plenty of times. If someone's been sick on the floor or something, you clean it up. It's just what has to be done. And I saw my parents set that example when I was young. So I was just going to say that when I came out of the tourism accommodation business in 2010, I was at this kind of crossover where I thought, what do I do next? And I had set up this cleaning business in 2009, but I'd set it up learning from all the lessons of the other things that had gone along the way. And I set it up with the intention that I'm not going to be out there doing the cleaning. I will if I have to, or to help out, or if somebody's on holiday or sick or something like that. But other than that, I'm going to manage this. And I systemized it, and I set it up so I could run it from my laptop. So I could be on holiday in Bali and still run my business if I needed to. So I applied the lessons of what I've learned. So staying on track is very much about having a plan that you're working towards, but regularly reassessing, where am I at? What's working? What could be working better? Or what's not working at all? And what am I going to do about it? And, be proactive, and also to keep looking at how else can I add value? How can I not only be better in my own efficiency and my organization, but how can I give a perception to my customers of they're getting the best experience possible, you know, and constantly looking at it through the eyes of your customer. You know, engaging with them, asking them how you, you know, when you go to a restaurant and they come up and say, how's your meal? Is everything okay? I love that because it shows that extra attention to, because a lot of people won't complain. They'll go, oh, this food's cold, but they won't say anything until you go and say, is everything okay? Oh, well, actually, this is a bit cold. Oh, let me take it back to the kitchen for you and I'll get it, you know, heated or whatever. So many people just sit there and don't complain about things. And then they'll go and complain on social media. So these days we have to be extra vigilant because we've got, you know, all our customers are also critics and they all love to get on the keyboard warriors and jump on and, you know, that you'll get more people criticizing you or saying bad things about your service than you will people bothering to take the time to say good things. Unless you create that sort of environment, unless you ask for feedback or you prompt some sort of, you know, testimonial or you encourage them in some way to give you positive reviews. That's a whole other thing. You've got to manage that side of it as well, more so than you ever had to in previous decades. You know, it's changed so much there. So I think being aware of changing trends is very important, and having, you know, a mastermind team around you of people that you can talk to whose opinion is worthwhile, that like they're experienced and knowledgeable enough to give you a valid opinion. But it's also asking your customers, because their opinion is the most valid opinion, really, because they're looking at it purely from their point of view. They don't know all your business problems or challenges, and they don't care. They just want the best product or service that you're offering. You've got to keep the challenge going for yourself, you know. So the thing that's going to keep all that going is having, that's why I put this first module as fuel for the journey, because it's your determination is based on your vision and your values and your commitment to what the end game that you're working towards. Now, just to clarify on that, because you talked a little bit about exit strategy and end game there. When people start, and I get this a lot as a coach, they don't really know. They're not thinking about their end game. They're thinking about, I just want to get into business and get started. What are you asking me about what I'm going to sell it for? That's going to be ages away, you know. But you've got to have some kind of a thought. You don't necessarily have to have it set in concrete, you know, but you have to think, would I be able to sell this as a business one day to somebody? Or would, you know, the family take it over? Or would one of the staff maybe want to buy it off me? Or is there a bigger company that might buy me out? And, you know, so you've got lots of different ideas, and you don't necessarily need to nail it right down to that one thing. I mean, it's great if you do have a clear vision like that and you can go, I'm running this for 5 years, and then at 5 years I'm selling it, and it's worth this now, it's going to be worth that then. If you can do that, that's great, because that's the perfect sort of, you know, situation. But most of us don't have that. Being realistic, you have a pretty good idea, well, I'll probably sell this, but I'm enjoying doing it, so why would I want to sell it? Yeah, but then what's your contingency? Like, what if you got sick? Or what if your partner got sick? Or what if, you know, there was a pandemic? I mean, that's a big one that's floored a lot of people. But there are global things. So, you know, we're getting into the mechanics of it then. But I would always look at a SWOT analysis, you know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, both for the business. And this is where I differ from some other coaches. I say, do this for you personally as well. What is your SWOT analysis? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Because if you've got weaknesses, you're going to have to probably either work on them and overcome them, or you're going to have to employ someone who's got complementary strengths to fit in with yours. So, you know, you're good at this, they're good at that, and you work together. You need to constantly be able to reassess. Go, like, I would go not even just every year, but probably every 6 months. Sit down and go, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? Is my vision still what it was of what I'm trying to achieve here? How has it changed? What's, you know, really have a self-reflection period. And if need be, take yourself away somewhere quiet where you're not going to get disturbed. If you can take a day off or something, and just go and reevaluate your whole business situation. and discuss it with people that you trust that are going to give you good advice. And that's where a mastermind is so powerful. Surrounding yourself with a team of good people. If you can turn your business into a cause as well, if there's something greater than you that you want to achieve, then it's going to take you to that whole other level. Give a great example. Somebody set up a business in the local area here. It's a cafe, and they've done it to employ young girls who've had troubled times, whether they've been through drugs or abusive relationships, difficult times, maybe falling out with their parents or falling out with a partner, and they're a bit lost and they need help. And what they've set up an accommodation place where these girls can go and live, and they teach them all about values, all about good conduct. I think there's a strong Christian element to it as well. But they get these girls back on track in terms of how to interact with other people and how to build a team and how to work together. And then they've got the cafe, and they actually put these girls through training programs so they can become baristas or chefs or whatever. And they go and work in the cafe. They've also got a little retail store in there as well, so they buy and sell clothing and so on. People working in the kitchen, people working as waitresses, and they get them a certificate of some sort while they're studying, whilst they're working there, getting practical experience. And the idea is it's a stepping stone, so they can then go from that and go and get a job and create their life somewhere else. And I just think, what a fantastic idea, because you've got a small business there that has to make money. It's been set up as a not-for-profit, but it still has to obviously survive. And it gets sponsorship and so on from different people. That's all about negotiating in the community to get help. But it gets these girls from being in a state of desperation and being lost to putting them back on track and giving them the equipment, the tools and equipment, the qualifications, the experience to then go and make something of their life. That's a cause. And I think if you can take your business to that next level, having some kind of a cause that you're supporting or that you're working towards, going back to Earl Nightingale, he talked about success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So having a worthy ideal or a cause just takes it to that next level. It means that you're going to keep going no matter what, because this is too important to you to fail.
Right. I actually love what you said about work ethics of business owners, because as business owner, you need to be a servant leader as well. Yes, you're the boss, but being the boss is not just on your head, but also on your heart. You should be able to do the dirty jobs. You should be fully engaged. You need to show your staff instead of just telling them what to do. So I agree with that. And of course, turning your business into a course. Wow, you gave us a lot of tips today. Anyway, do you have any last message for our audience, or would you like to give them a review of what to expect next week?
Yeah, well, I have one quick story with a couple as a coach. So I went into coaching then. I thought I've learned all this stuff from setting up all these businesses. Suddenly realized I'd learned a lot more than I had. It had dawned on me that, when people started asking me questions, and as I was able to answer the question, I'm going, how did I know that? Oh, I did this and I did that, So one of the couples that I started working with, they had a couple of young kids. They were running a landscaping business, and they were in the middle of having their house renovated as well. They just got a bigger mortgage and had their house extended, and so there was unfinished rooms. There was builders coming in and out. Their house was in complete chaos. Their business was in chaos. They were struggling financially, and they were really, feeling down and not knowing what to do. She was running doing the books. She was a bookkeeper by trade or accountant by trade, and he was a landscaper. So he knew how to do the landscaping. He didn't know how to run a business. She was trying to help him, but didn't really want to be in that business with him, but was doing her best to support her husband. And I went and sat with them, and I said, so, okay, why are you doing all this? What do you really want to achieve? What are your dreams? What's like on your bucket list? What would you ideally do? And the answer I got was, well, we stopped really thinking about all that because we don't think we'll ever make it happen. So we'll only get depressed if we think about what we want to achieve. So we just stopped thinking about it. And I went, oh my God. so the biggest thing I had to do with them was to reignite their dreams, you know, to go, what do you want out of life? What do you want for your children? If you can't think about what you want, what do you want for your children? What sort of life do you want to set up? What example do you want to show them? You know, and I did a lot of work with them. I rebranded their business, got them really motivated again, started giving them the tools, the marketing, the support with personnel, how to hire and fire staff if need be. Just completely changed the whole business. And then today they're flying, they're taking the kids on holidays, they put a pool in the backyard, and you go, that is just so there's my cause, is being able to transform people's lives, to help them to find the answers that they just don't know where to start. You know, don't ever lose sight of your dreams, because that is the fuel for your journey. So that's really sort of the summing up of part one, I suppose. Part two is then really going on to what I've called the heart of your adventure, or the roadmap to your success. Really looking at it through the customer's eyes and looking at some of the things that will make a difference as to whether you're going to succeed or not, in terms of how you relate with your customers. And communication really has a lot to do with it, you know, effective communication. Anyway, we'll talk about that more next time.
Okay, thank you, Coach Tony, for sharing your time, knowledge, and expertise with us. We're excited to hear you again next week. So, see ya.
Thank you.